Hello everyone, Charles Watts here, Arsenal correspondent at Goal. I hope everyone is feeling good, is keeping themselves motivated and keeping their spirits up amid what is a pretty mad time. I hope none of you have been affected by what's going on at the moment, and if you have, I'm very sorry, and I hope that all is well and you or your family members or people you know are getting through it and will soon be back healthy soon. Like I said, mad times, and I wish I didn't have to start these videos by talking about it, but kind of have to mention it. First of all, just best wishes, and I hope everyone's getting through it as best as they can, and soon we'll be back out on those streets out there regularly doing what we used to do and going to football. God, could you imagine going to that first football match? It's only been a few weeks, and already I'm just thinking of it, just walking up to the Emirates for the first time back, and just being in that crowd again and feeling the buzz again before a match. Just everything is just gonna be like Christmas. And then Arsenal probably going to lose 1-0, but what are you going to do? It's still going to be nice to get back up there whenever that may be. It's still looking like some time off at the moment. Premier League clubs meeting at the moment. Today is Friday. They're talking again about the best way forward. You saw what UEFA said yesterday, telling the top leagues, don't call the leagues off yet. We saw Belgium actually did that yesterday, and UEFA not too happy with that, and telling all their other sort of member clubs don't do it yet, and sort of looking at getting back together probably around July, August to finish the seasons, which I do think is still going to happen. That's what Arsenal are working towards anyway. They're still working towards the season being finished. Players obviously still in isolation at the moment, not isolation, but they're still, as we all are, locked down and not allowed out, so they're not training, anything like that. But the club is still certainly working towards that happening at some point in the future, and probably when they do go back, they won't be training all together. They might well be in pairs or in slightly larger groups of players, sort of 3 and 4 spaced out from each other. And I think that's the sort of precautions clubs are going to take when eventually they do get back playing, which seems like it's going to be some way off yet, but hopefully, touch wood, football will come back. Well, it will definitely come back, but hopefully it will come back sooner rather than later, and we'll all get to enjoy watching Arsenal again. But anyway, after that little ramble, just one more thank you again for taking the time to watch my videos here on YouTube and subscribing. If you don't subscribe yet, then please do. There's a button down there somewhere. Do subscribe. And unfortunately, I just sort of started this channel just as in the build up to the coronavirus crisis, and I was doing it fairly regularly and bringing videos from matches from the training ground. Obviously, I can't do that anymore, so I'm just having to do them at the moment, confined to my house, and I'm kind of doing it once a week at the moment, just trying to keep you updated and answer some questions you guys have sent in. And but once football does return and I am back to the training ground, I am back to the matches, then there'll be far more videos constantly being uploaded to this channel. So please do, if you haven't done it already, hit the subscribe button, and I promise in the future when football does come back, then there's going to be plenty more content to keep you entertained and keep you up to date with the latest goings on at Arsenal. So as I did last week, I did a bit of a Q&A, answer to questions that have been sent in to me on social media that I'd asked for, and I'm going to do that again. I'm going to try and do that as a weekly thing, just to keep you updated as best as I know it, the situation about various things. And plenty of you have been replying. I think I sent out a tweet a few days ago, retweeted it this morning. I've had plenty of replies to it, so I'm going to go through most of the questions. I won't go through them all because a lot of them are fairly similar, and once I've answered it once, there's no point answering it again. So if I don't answer your question, I'm sorry, I'm not ignoring you, I promise. It's just that I've probably answered it in one way or another already, and just to save going over again, I've skipped past it, but I do apologise if I do that to you. And like I said, I'm not ignoring you. So let's get into it. Let's get answering some questions for you, because that's what you're all here for. Let's go first one. Let's go with Evan, who says, with Saliba coming in and possibly another centre-back, do you think Arsenal will work on offloading a centre-back in the window? And if so, who? Thanks for the question, Evan. Yes, I do think Arsenal will offload at least one centre-back in the summer, possibly even two. Well, I say in the summer. Football's probably not going to start again until towards the end of the summer. So what happens with the transfer window, we'll have to wait and see in terms of when it will be, how long it will be. But I'm sure there will be one at some point at the end of that season before the new season starts, whenever that may be. And when that transfer window is in place, I do think Arsenal will look to shift out a couple, because like you say, Saliba's coming in. Saliba's is going to be a genuine first team player. And I think that I wouldn't be surprised if Mustafi goes. I know Mustafi's playing, and Arteta likes him. Mustafi's playing well under Arteta, but I think Arsenal are very keen to still get Mustafi out the door. He's not got too long left on his contract, and I don't think they're going to give Mustafi a new contract, despite how well he's playing at the moment. I think the idea is that he will be moved on. They tried to get him out the last couple of windows, hasn't happened. He's stuck around, and whether they can shift him this window, I don't know. I think they'll certainly do their best to try and get him out the door. The fact that he's playing pretty well will possibly help them get a little bit more money for him that they weren't expecting sort of this time last year. Or last summer, so I think Mustafi might go. I wouldn't be surprised with Rob Holding as well. Maybe on loan. We might see a sort of situation with Rob Holding that you saw with Callum Chambers, who went out to Fulham on season for the loan, and it worked really well for Chambers. He came back before his injury and was in the Arsenal side. And Holding just needs to play for me. I think it's been really, really unfortunate because he's come back from that injury, and the only way that you're going to get fit and sharp again from an injury of that serious nature is by playing regularly. But he can't really play regularly at the moment, and when he has played, he's looked, unsurprisingly, looks sort of well off the pace. And January was a bad time for Holding. I think ideally he would have been sent out on loan for the rest of the season and played, but because of the situation Arsenal were in with defenders, because of injuries and things like that, they couldn't afford to let him go. So he sort of stayed, but he wasn't playing, and I think he needs a good spell in the team, in a team next season, just to get his confidence back, to get his sharpness back, and I think a loan spell would do Rob Holding the world good. I don't want to sell Rob Holding. I got to say, I hope Arsenal hold on to him because I think he's a very good defender. We saw before the injury how good he was and how well he was playing. So I wouldn't be surprised if we might see Mustafi be sold and Rob Holding leave on loan. I don't think Papa or Louise will go just because they've got a year left in the contract. I don't think Arsenal will be too bothered about the fact they might lose them on a free at the end of that because they're not going to get much money from anyway because they're well into their 30s. So I think they'll probably keep those two around, and they'll be good for Saliba as well, who don't forget is very, very young. So I think those two will certainly stay. Saliba will come in. I think they'll probably sign someone else, and possibly Mustafi and Holding could well make way. Dr. Mood on the centre-back says, do you have any specific information about Arsenal working on a new centre-back? I know that one of Arsenal's priorities this summer is definitely going to be a centre-back, no doubt about that. In terms of names, I can't sit here definitively now and tell you who those centre-backs are going to be. They certainly like I can never say it, Upamecano at Leipzig. They've watched him a lot. There were sort of discussions last summer about possibly getting him in from Leipzig. Didn't go anywhere. It was never really going to happen because of finances. But he's only got a year left in his contract. He possibly would be within Arsenal's price range this summer. The only issue is he's been playing very, very well because he's a very good defender, and a lot of clubs will be in for him in the summer. And whether they're certainly going to. Financially, I'm not sure Arsenal are going to be able to compete for him, but he's a player they really do like. They've watched an awful lot, and if they can get something done for him, they will. But just think that they might end up being pushed out of the market for that one, given the competition they're going to have for him. The professor asked about update on Aubameyang's contract situation. Afraid not. Still don't think, as far as I'm aware, I don't think any concrete talks have been held. I know Arteta said just before the sort of coronavirus enforced break that the club, he was hoping the club would sit down with all before the end of the season, at least discuss it. I mean, this is golden time to do it really because they're not playing any football, so it's a great time to sort of get those contract talks done. But as far as I'm aware, nothing has moved on in terms of Aubameyang's contract situation, and it's in a way, this break's not helped Arsenal's cause in the slightest because by the time football does resume, if it is sort of July, August, Auba will be well into the final year of his contract at that point. It's not going to help Arsenal's cause in terms of what sort of money they'll get from him if a bid came in the summer, and they reluctantly agreed to sell because he wasn't going to sign a new deal, or just in terms of their bargaining position with Aubameyang as well. So it's not ideal what's going on with this break in terms of Aubameyang's contract. And as far as I'm aware, and I might be wrong, and talks might be going on, but as far as I'm aware, last time I was sort of talking to someone about the situation, no talks were happening with Aubameyang. Tejas asks, hi Charles, which positions will Mikel Arteta be looking at in the summer and which names do you think he can target? As far as I'm aware, right back, centre back, central midfield, and forward are the 4 areas that Arsenal are really looking at this summer. We've already talked about centre back position. I think right back, they're aware that Hector Bellerin has not looked massively impressive since he's come back. They haven't got much cover. Obviously, Suarez was brought in on loan. They do have an option to turn that into a permanent move. He will be out of contract in the summer, so it's not going to cost him any money. But he's not really done anything to sort of warrant that permanent move at the moment, because Arsenal haven't been able to see how he's going to play, because he hasn't even played a game yet, because he was injured when he signed. So right back, certainly an area they'll look to strengthen. I wouldn't be surprised to see Maitland-Niles move on as well. He's obviously been cover for right back for a lot of the time in the last couple of seasons. Central midfielder, box-to-box midfielder, absolutely a priority for Arsenal. They really want to sort that position out. Not really done it since Ramsey's gone. They've not really replaced Ramsey. Torreira, future a little bit up in the air. I would say he's still not starting regularly under Arteta, just like he wasn't under Emery. And I wouldn't be surprised. I don't want it to happen, but I wouldn't be surprised if a tempting bid came in, certainly from Italy, for Torreira, that he would possibly look to get that move done. And I think Arsenal may well look. I know they will definitely look to bring in a midfielder and 4 up front as well, kind of depending on the Aubameyang situation. They'll look to get in a striker. They got Nketiah, obviously, and they really like Nketiah. They want to give him a decent go, as they were before the break, and they want to continue to give him opportunities. Lacazette's still got 2 years left, but Auba, possibly might go in the summer. Hopefully he doesn't. But if he does, they're certainly looking at people. I've mentioned it before in a couple of these videos, and I wrote a story about it a while ago. They're certainly keeping tracks on Jonathan David, the Genk striker over in Belgium. He's done an interview in the last couple of days, actually, David, I saw with The Guardian, talking about the potential for a move to Premier League, saying it's the best league in the world, and at some point he would like to play here. As far as I'm aware, his preference, certainly him and his people's preference for his next move, and he will move whenever the transfer window's open, might well be a sort of a stepping stone towards the Premier League. He might look to Germany first of all, because he wants to guarantee playing time. He doesn't want to go and sit on the bench anywhere. He's loving it in Genk this season. He's scoring goals. He's playing regularly. He does want to move, but he doesn't want to move and then find himself sitting on the bench. And it wouldn't surprise me if he did end up in Germany rather than the Premier League, and then a few years down the line make the move to England. But he's certainly a player that Arsenal are looking at. They like Edouard at Celtic as well. Good player. I like him. What I've seen of him, I think he's a decent player. Arsenal have watched him a lot this season. So those are the sort of players they're looking at. They're not going to spend big money. Look, Arsenal they're not going to spend masses. We don't know what they're going to be doing in terms of European football next season, if they're even going to be in it at all. But even if they are, they're not going to spend millions and millions of pounds. Finances are pretty tight. Finances are going to be even tighter given what's going on at the moment and the loss of revenue that all clubs are finding at the moment, without any income coming through from gate money, and possibly TV companies looking to get their money back as well, some of their money back for the loss of live football. So Arsenal are not going to be swamped with cash this summer, so I wouldn't be expecting multi-millions of pounds. But we said that last season, they still managed to get a really good structured deal in place to sign Pepe for looked like a lot of money, but they're not actually, because they're spending it over 5 years. It didn't work out that expensive, and if they could do that with someone else, then I'm sure they will look to do it. But they're not going to go out there and compete with the very best in Europe for the big money signings. It's just not going to happen. How do you pronounce this? Well, the name on Twitter is just A, and then the picture of an eagle, and the @ is @Ogasegi, and he says, "Can we keep Auba?" Realistically, of course you can. Absolutely can keep Auba. It just depends on A, how much money Arsenal are willing to offer him at his age, and B, if Auba wants to stay. I mean, that's it. The ball's in Auba's court. He's got all the power in this situation. I think Arsenal would be mad to move him on, just because I still think, despite the fact he's in his 30s now, he's not looking like he's slowing down. In fact, he looks like he's getting better, and he's still fast. He's clinical in front of goal. He's been really clinical this season, I think, apart from that miss against Olympiacos. And I think you're going to have to spend so much money that Arsenal haven't got to replace Aubameyang, that I think they'd be mad to sell him or cash in. I'd prefer to keep him just for another year, even if he doesn't sign, and just let him go on a free transfer afterwards. But because they've got more of a chance qualifying for the Champions League next season, if they keep Aubameyang for another year. than if they replace him and have to bed in a sort of younger player who's never going to score the sort of goals that Aubameyang does. But realistically, look, there's definitely a chance, but it depends on him. If he really wants to stay, then he'll stay. But if he thinks, if he's going to know what other clubs are sniffing around, his agent's going to know exactly what's being offered elsewhere in Europe. And if someone, say like Barcelona or Real Madrid, are knocking on the door saying, look, we'll give you this, come here and play in the Champions League and compete for the La Liga title, then it's very hard for Aubameyang to turn down. Rob asked, do you think Santi will come into Mikel's managerial setup? Well, at the moment, the way Santi's playing, I don't think he's going to want to move anywhere and become a coach at the moment, because I think he's playing so well. He's missed so much football that why give up playing? I still think he's got another couple of years left. The quality of football he was playing before this, they had to take a break, was as good as we've seen for a long time. So I don't think so. I think we'll probably see Santi come back. There was certainly plans in place for him to come back this summer for his big send-off, potentially in the Emirates Cup. Villarreal going to possibly be invited over, and Santi would get his big send-off in front of the crowd, can maybe play 45 minutes for Villarreal and then 45 minutes for Arsenal. But given what's gone on now and the fact that it doesn't look like there's going to be a summer anymore, a summer break anymore, really, it might be unlikely, and that might have to be pushed back for another year. But there's certainly talk about getting Santi over. He wants it, the club wants it, the fans certainly want it. And I don't think it'll be that difficult to do, but in terms of joining Mikel's managerial staff, I don't think so at the moment. I think he's fully focused on his playing career, and why not? Because he's missed a couple of years through injury. He didn't think he was going to play again at one point. He didn't think he was going to walk again at one point. I don't think he's in any rush to stop playing football just yet. Jan Nemec says, do you think the club or Arteta might look to bring in some new staff as well? After this blows over, I know O'Driscoll stayed and rejected Liverpool, but I would love to see one more fitness or first-team coach, maybe some extra date Aris. I mean, look, Mikel Arteta's bang on top of things when it comes to his coaching staff, and he's always looking to improve. He's always looking to get better. So if he thinks there's someone out there who can come in, I'm sure they'll look to do that. But as far as I'm aware, I think they're pretty happy at the moment. Maybe one more member of staff. I think a lot depends on Freddie as well, because I think Freddie's probably going to have options in the summer. I keep saying the summer, but at some point soon, when the season ends, I think Freddie's going to have options. If some clubs potentially want to talk to him about a more hands-on coaching role, he is part of Arteta's setup. He's certainly involved on the training ground. I see him there, and he is involved. But match day, he's not on the bench. He's sitting up in the ground, up in the stands, watching, getting more bird's eye view of what situation. And he's got an earpiece in, and he's feeding that information down to the bench. But I think Lundberg wants to be, back down in the dugout somewhere, closer to the action. And so if Freddie does end up going, moving on his career and trying to get back into the sort of head coach role, I wouldn't be surprised that Mikel will probably look to bring someone else in. But I don't think at the moment they're really actively looking for it. Ndidi Mapai or Mapipi? Ndidi Mapipi. Sorry if this is wrong. I'm sure it probably is, and I've just totally insulted you with my pronunciation. I do apologise. Says we are being linked with Upamecano. Why is it difficult for Arsenal to look at new centre back locally, i.e. in the Premier League? I mean, Lewis Dunk or Lascelles. And then someone replies to that. Alukunli replies to that and says James Tarkowski. They're all good options, and Lewis Dunk is a player that Arsenal have looked at before. I just think they're just so expensive, and in terms of quality, I think they're very good players. But how much you have to pay to move from English club to English club is so much. There's a premium there, and I think that's why Arsenal aren't really looking to do it. I'm not sure about Lascelles. I think Lascelles is all right. I wouldn't be breaking the bank to try and sign him. I think Dunk is a good player. Wouldn't be adverse to seeing Lewis Dunk at Arsenal, but I just think he's going to cost so much money. And you look at what's abroad, you look at what you can bring in. It's just better value out there than buying English to English. So I think that's probably the main reason. Invincible Gunner says, any updates on how everyone's doing at Arsenal and news on the future? I've kind of said all I know really about the situation at the start of this video, so hopefully you've already listened to me talk about that. Invincible Gunner. Ben Napton asked, do you see a future for Lacazette at Arsenal? Absolutely, I do. I think some of the criticism for Lacazette has been really, really unfair this season. He got an injury and that really disrupted the start. his season, but he's a very, very good player. You know, he won Player of the Season last season, justifiably won that. I thought he was very, very good last year. And people have got a little bit of short memories for me for the criticism that he's getting. I just don't get it. I think he's a really valuable member of the Arsenal squad. I think he's a valuable member of the team. Brings a lot to the team. You know, his teammates like him, and yeah, I absolutely think he's got a future at Arsenal, 100%. What we got going on? I've got a few more questions about Aubameyang. Like I said, I've already answered these, so this is why I'm not ignoring you. I promise I'm not ignoring you. It's just there's no point. Commandsy says, as much as we are eager to strengthen our team, we have to clear out a lot of fringe, maybe even key players. Who do you think will be sold or loaned out? Could question this. Well, I've already talked about a couple of players. I think Rob Holding might well be loaned out. I think he'd really benefit from that. I wouldn't be surprised if Mustafi goes. I wouldn't be surprised if Torreira goes. I hope Torreira doesn't go. I hope he stays. But just got to... I know he was sort of looking at it in January. Torreira wasn't really too happy, and Arteta spoke to him and kept him, just as he did with Xhaka as well. But I just think if an option arises from Italy for Torreira, I wouldn't be surprised if he looks at it, especially if it's someone like Napoli, who have been sniffing around him for an awful long time. So I think those are the sort of players that go. The Xhaka situation as well, I'm still not totally convinced Xhaka will be here for too much longer. You know, he was definitely trying to go in January, and Mikel Arteta, to his credit, stuck with him, convinced him to stay, and he has stayed. But whether he does that long term, I'm not entirely sure. I still think Xhaka, there might be a move on the cards for him. And yeah, defenders we've already sort of gone through with Rob Holding. Maitland-Niles, I think, could well go. He's not getting any sort of game time really now under Arteta. So I think they're the sort of players Arsenal will be looking at. And then obviously we've got the Aubameyang situation. Hopefully he doesn't leave, but there's still a possibility that he might. JB says, how will we fit Martinelli and Saka into our team as starters? Well, you know, Saka is starting. I know he's at left back at the moment. But you've got to remember these kids, they're teenagers, they're really young. There's not many teenagers starting week in, week out. Martinelli's come in, he was fantastic first season, Martinelli, but you still can't just flog him week in, week out in the first team. I think I can understand why Arteta's taken Martinelli out of the limelight a little bit. Obviously, threw him in when Aubameyang was suspended and he did really well. But Aubameyang's very much the first team. He's only playing one striker at the moment, and Aubameyang's that man. In terms of Saka, I mean, he's playing week in, week out. I do think, he wants to play left wing. No doubt about that. He's made that clear, and I'm sure he will. But you just got to remember how young they are. When it comes to certain, you've got to play week in, week out. I don't think you do that. Don't want to play young players too often. There's burnout fears, injury fears, and also they've just got to cope with the pressure so much that they're only 18. They're literally kids, especially those two. So I think they're playing plenty enough football at the moment for that, given their age, especially at a club like Arsenal. Tushir asks, what role is Freddie having in the current Arsenal setup? Well, I've already answered that actually, Tushir, so there's no point me doing it, answering that question. Thanks for it though, but yeah, hopefully you can go back if you haven't seen it already and listen to it. I answered it a couple of questions ago. Ollie says, g'day Charles, how do you find being both an Arsenal fan and an Arsenal journalist? To many it would sound like a dream job, but are there any unexpected challenges to come with it? Not really. I think I wouldn't say unexpected challenge. I find it fine. I've never hidden my allegiance to Arsenal. I can't hide my allegiance to Arsenal because I'm an Arsenal fan. Always have been. All it would have taken before me getting this job and the job before that, when I was Arsenal reporter at Football London, was a few easy Twitter searches and everyone could tell what team I supported. So there's no point in hiding it. I don't think I've really had any challenges. A lot of Arsenal reporters are Arsenal fans, and a lot of club supporters up and down the country support the team they're following. I still make sure that I'm impartial when it comes to reporting the situation. I've done it. I think when Unai Emery studied, Unai Emery, I painted my colours to the mast for that one in terms of I thought he should go, and I I do my best to make sure I'm not just this partisan reporter. I balance. I mean, I think I'm pretty balanced, and so no, I don't think there's not really too many challenges with it. I just do my job best way I do it. It's exactly how I did my job before when I was covering Reading. Before I moved to get the Arsenal gig, I was covering Reading for the local paper in the town, and I treated Reading exactly the way I treat Arsenal now. So no, not too many unexpected challenges. I find it very, very good, very rewarding. What's the club's plan to limit the wage bill in these times? There are active discussions for salary reduction 50-70%, as in other countries. Yeah, look, we saw what the PFA came out with yesterday. PFA sort of urging their members not to take pay cuts at the moment. Look, I do think this whole situation, I've mentioned it on Twitter earlier today, I do think Premier League players are really easy targets at the moment. Yes, they earn ridiculous amounts of money, but I still find it a bit rich. We've got government ministers standing up there and calling on the Premier League players to do their bit and take pay cuts when these same government ministers aren't providing the NHS staff with the equipment they need to deal with this crisis. It just feels like they've sort of shifted the focus onto Premier League players when Premier League players pay huge amounts of tax. That tax goes to funding the NHS. And they do so much behind the scenes, Premier League players. And look, I'm not saying they shouldn't take a pay cut. They should, especially if club staff are sort of being laid off during this crisis. Players should help them chip in, whether that's a pay cut or they just put money into a pot that goes to keep the club running, keep the staff being paid during this crisis, something like that. But just standing up there, the government official, Matt Hancock was it yesterday, saying, "Cool, no, I just thought it was a bit rich." It's like, do focus on other people. You're the people who've underfunded the NHS for God knows how long. Don't sit out there and start pointing a finger at Premier League players. I do think it's a bit rich, and I know that Arsenal are in discussions about it, and the players have been doing stuff, and they'll continue to do stuff. It just doesn't get publicised an awful lot. Like Mesut Ozil, no one does more around the world for underprivileged children, for people in need than Mesut Ozil. He works non-stop, rarely for any sort of publicity to do it. Yes, he earns huge amounts of money, but boy does he give back as well, but you just don't hear about it too much. And I do think that a lot of the stuff going on with player wages at the moment is just because they're easy targets, and it's a way of shifting the blame, and the government really need to look at themselves and the way they've underfunded the NHS, the way they've cut NHS jobs over the years, haven't provided them with equipment. They're the ones to blame for this. It's not about ganging up on football players for me. It's about the government. It's about the lack of funding and doing their jobs right, and that's where the blame should be. That's what people should be focusing on right now, not Premier League footballers. Anyway, that's my political rant over for now. Noble Nonny says, I heard Man United have strong interest in Aubameyang. How true possible is it? Would you rather lose Aubameyang to a Spanish club? Absolutely, I'd rather lose Aubameyang to a Spanish club. We saw what happened with Van Persie and Man United. Can't have that happen again. It would be an absolute disaster. It would send out a dreadful message as well. Arsenal fans would be furious. Can't happen. I'm sure they have got interest in him because he's Aubameyang. Every top club will be looking at him and knowing the goals he'll provide. But Arsenal cannot even entertain the thought of selling him to Manchester United. No, can't happen. If he wants to go there and he ends up going on a free, then that's one thing because it's his decision. But if Arsenal agree to sell him to Man United, then it would be a ludicrous decision. Can't happen. Absolutely can't happen. Let's have a look. What else we got coming on? Canada says, morning sir, thanks for your good work. Is everyone else watching old videos of Wenger's team circa 2007 to 2012? Should they have won more? And why did he pour with such poor defenders? I thought he actually had some alright defenders during that time. Vermaelen's good defender. Sagna, there's not been a better right back, or been very few better right backs in the Premier League over the last decade than Bakary Sagna, or even the last 15 years. And Bakary Sagna was fantastic when he signed for Arsenal. Yeah, they should have won more. They could have won more. They should have won. Certainly should have won against Birmingham in the League Cup final. They should have won the league in 2008. That was such a good team, that 2007-8 team. Fantastic side. Still convinced to this day, Eduardo not got injured, they would have won the title that year. I thought they were great. It's just that Eduardo injury, what happened at Birmingham, it just knocked them out of their stride for the next 5 or 6 games, and that was it. The title was gone. But had that not happened, they would have won that match at Birmingham. They would have that you look at the next 3 draws they had after that, it was just all down to what happened to Eduardo. I spoke to Sagner about it actually last couple of weeks when I did the interview. I hope you've seen the interview with him. And he admitted they couldn't. It just put insecurity in their head, seeing what happened to Eduardo. And they couldn't recover from it, and they should have won it that year. They should have. They've had other opportunities as well. The Leicester season, I still can barely talk about that 3-2 defeat at Old Trafford when having just beaten Leicester with that Danny Welbeck goal and then going to Old Trafford against the Man United youth team and losing 3-2 in such awful fashion. It was a game that finally did it for me with Arsene Wenger. I thought that was it. Wenger, his time was up after that. The fact he couldn't get his team motivated to go to Old Trafford, perform well, and back up that Leicester win with another win, I just thought I was done. They had their opportunities, but they've not taken them. So yes, they absolutely should have won more. Are Arsenal really behind the push to uphold Man City's European ban? Says Noah. I think pretty much all the English clubs are. They want to see Man City held accountable if they have broken the rules. Obviously, it's not been totally proven yet. We're going to have to wait and see what the Court of Arbitration for Sport decides whenever that hearing is held. City obviously appealing UEFA's ruling on that, but I think all English clubs have made it clear that they do want Man City held accountable if they have been proven to have broken the rules, and justifiably so, in my opinion. Larson says, any knowledge about Arsenal contacting Hleb to get the latest on things from Belarus League? Not that I'm aware of. I don't think the Belarus League, I know it's like the only league being played at the moment, but I don't think it's exactly where all Arsenal scouts will be focusing on right now. I know Arsenal scouts are still working. Obviously, they can't travel at the moment, but they are still working and keeping an eye on what's going on, sitting at home, watching a lot of Y-Scout, but I don't think they're going to be flying over to Belarus anytime soon to watch exactly what's going on over there. Tokyo Guna asks, which classic game of Arsenal's would you like to watch and why? Well, it was on not long ago. Arsenal did the rewind of... did they do the rewind of that game? No, I think I just watched the highlights. Arsenal versus Hull, the 2014 FA Cup final is just such a special game for me. Loved it, loved every minute of it, apart from the first 10 minutes. But I love watching it now and just knowing what's going to happen. And yeah, it's just one of my favourite football matches of all time. That game had everything, and so yeah, that one is right out there. I love my old videos. I've still got them when I go to my dad's now. I still see them in the sort of cabinet over there. All the old Arsenal videos from the early 90s and late 88, 89 season. The double cup winning video, the 1990-91 title season, all those videos, I loved them. The European Cup Kings one, when they beat Parma, so many. In the 97-98 season, that Everton game, Tony Adams scoring at the end, every time I watch it, still sends shivers down my spine. Just fantastic. So many classic games. The Arsenal-Barcelona, it's the best match I've ever seen is the Arsenal-Barcelona game. Not the 2-1 actually, the 2-2. When Fabregas and Walcott scored in the second half to get 2-2 draw. That Barcelona team was incredible. It was just such an amazing game of football. And then the year after, when Arsenal did win, when they won 2-1 and Arshavin's winner, special. Alakunla says, please keep Mari and Cedric Suarez depth in our team. Possibly, but it's quite tough to judge Suarez at the moment because we haven't seen him. So I'm not sure. Mari, I've certainly liked what I've seen in the fleeted appearances that he's made, but whether that's enough to keep him, we'll have to wait and see. Possibly. I mean, he's a sort of defender Arsenal want. Certainly the defender Arteta wanted in a left-sided centre-back, good distribution. So he might well come in with on a permanent deal to come sort of play alongside or add to the depth with Saliba when he arrives. JH asked about how much Arsenal will have to spend, and that he knows that COVID-19 will definitely affect this. I don't know how much Arsenal have to spend this summer. I don't know about the budget. I don't think that the club don't know yet because they don't know what European competition, if any, they're going to be playing in next season. But as I sort of mentioned earlier, they're not going to have lots. It's not going to be a huge amount top 3 moments watching Arsenal live, Chris McLaren. I tell you what, my favourite Arsenal match is. Didn't win a title in it, didn't win a trophy in it, but my favourite match I've ever watched live was Arsenal 0, Real Madrid 0. It was the second leg of the Champions League game after Arsenal had won 1-0 at the Bernabeu. Von Rees goal, and came back to Highbury against that Galacticos Madrid side, and just the atmosphere, the night game at Highbury, the tension of it. It was just a brilliant night. I loved every minute of it, although it was torture watching it. I remember probably about 20 minutes to go. I remember they got a free kick probably about 20 yards out, and Beckham was over it, and just the tension of waiting for him to take that free kick. I could barely watch it. I was bouncing up and down, you just wanted him to take it so it'd be over, so you'd know if he'd score or not. It was just, I hate the tension of waiting for him to take it. I'll always remember it. That layman save from Raul's shot that he tipped onto the post. I remember Pires in the last few minutes. I think Casillas had come up for a corner and we'd cleared it, and Pires had to go from like the halfway line, and it just didn't have enough momentum, the ball, to cross the line, and the North Bank was trying to suck it in. And yeah, it's my favourite Arsenal game of all time. Arsenal 0, Real Madrid 0. Mad, not even a goal scored in it, and it's my favourite game. Other top 3 moments seeing Arsenal live, I think certainly the Everton game at the end of the 98 season, Tony Adams' goal, just fantastic. And then it's tough to choose one from the Invincible season, because it was just everything about it, the season. The fact that you go a season unbeaten, and I was a season ticket holder for it. I saw all the games, and just seeing that team in action non-stop every week, every other week, and some away games, it was just a joy. It was a pleasure, a privilege. So that, but yeah, I think my favourite, like I said, my favourite game, Arsenal 0, Real Madrid 0, was just a fantastic night. Let's see. Just Jay, asks, thanks Charles, any clarity on what will end up happening with Mickey? I keep forgetting about Mickey. Actually, I haven't mentioned him yet in this when I'm talking about players who might go. I do think Mkhitaryan will probably go if they can shift him on. I asked Arteta about Mickey not too long ago, and now Arteta said he liked him. He's a player who's in his plans, but potentially in his plans. But I still do think if they can get even 10 million for Mkhitaryan in the summer, possibly he might go back to Roma because he's done well there. Then that they will. But if they can't, then I think he's a valuable player. I think if he'd have stayed this season, I think he'd have played quite a lot. And I think he's certainly offered more. I love Mesut Ozil, but I think if Mkhitaryan had stayed, he'd certainly have scored more goals than Ozil this season. So, if he does stay, then I don't think it's the worst thing for Arsenal. But I do think if a decent bid comes in for him, they'll look to move him on. Karate Kid talks about realistic centre-back midfield options. I've sort of already looked through all of that, and players on the verge of exit, so no point replying again. But I hope you sort of look back in this video and you can certainly see the answers to it. Coming towards the end now, Boniface asks the current situation on Saka and Aubameyang contract. We've already talked about Aubameyang, but Saka, certainly Arsenal are looking to get that done. Talks are ongoing at the moment. They have been before the break. They will be during this break as well. Arsenal are desperate not to lose Saka, but Saka's again in a very strong position now. He's got an awful lot of clubs who want him. There's lots of interest in him from Germany. Borussia Dortmund very, very keen on Bukayo Saka. Sancho's obviously over there as well. It looks like Jude Bellingham from Birmingham might be going over there as well. So there's going to be a little English contingent there if Sancho stays, that is. But Arsenal absolutely don't want to lose him, and they hope they can get a deal done with him, because it'd be awful if they did end up losing him, given how much money they've invested in him and time they've invested in him, bringing him through from Hale End for him to go just as he breaks into the first team. But I think that in terms of where that is, I think it's certainly further down the line than Aubameyang and their contract discussions, because talks are at least happening with Saka, and they have been for some time. With Aubameyang, they haven't been on for a while. Right, I think that's about it. Now, thank you very much for your time. I do appreciate it, and I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope it's told you something and it's updated you on some of the situations. Again, if I haven't answered your question, you did send one in, I do apologise, but it's only because I've already talked about it with answering other questions. I didn't want to just constantly replicate my answers, so I do apologise. But thank you very much, and like I said at the start of this, please do, if you haven't yet, touch the subscribe button, which is down there somewhere. I do appreciate it, how you guys are supporting this, and I once again apologise that it's only sort of one update a week at the moment, and once football does return and I am out about on the field, at the training ground, at the stadium, then there'll be certainly much more content to come. So thank you very much for your time, and enjoy the rest of your week and your upcoming weekend.